The Jared Dillian Show.
I'm Jared Dillian. This is the Jared Dillian Show. If you want to call to talk about your money, please call 844-305-7800. That's 844-305-7800. This is the Jared Dillian Show. You know, there's a lot of money out there. It's kind of weird because most people, they're like, they don't know how to get more money. And I'm like, it's kind of funny because we're literally printing like $7 trillion. And it's finding its way into the economy and it's finding its way into the stock market. And people have so much money and they're putting it in the bank that the banks are just clogged up with money. This is actually like a real problem. Like all the banks have so much money, they can't deploy it fast enough. So they're just like choking on deposits. This is where we are. Okay, we're living in a country where there is so much money that the banks are like, no, we don't want any more. Enough. So whenever I hear somebody say it's really hard to get money, I'm like, no, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. We have printed trillions of dollars in the last year, and we've handed out about $1 trillion in stimulus checks. Money is abundant. Money is not scarce. Money is not hard to come by. Everything you see in the personal finance world is all about you have a pie and you're slicing it up into smaller and smaller pieces. You make $60,000 a year, and like, how can we take this $60,000 and make it last as long as possible? How can we divide this up? How do we make this work? That's the whole personal finance industry right there. That's what everybody talks about. We should make the pie bigger, you know. This is a story that I heard recently. It's absolutely true. I read this. It was like 17 ways to save money or something like that. And one of the ways to save money was to cut back on food. That was for real. To eat less to save money. And I'm like, we're going to be hungry to save money? I mean, food is cheap for now. Food is cheap for now. It might not be a year from now, but for now, food is cheap. You can have as much food as you want. It's really okay. Okay. You just have to change your attitude. You have to change your perception. Instead of thinking that money is hard to get, think of money as easy to get. The difference is you just have to know how to do it. And some people have skills. They know how to make money. And some people don't, but it can be learned. And we've talked about all the ways you can make more money on this show. You can get a raise. That's one possibility. You can get a higher paying job. That's another possibility. You could start a business. That's the best possibility. The best way to make money is to start a business. And it's also the most fun. It's a lot less painful than asking for a raise. It's a lot less painful than switching jobs. Starting a business is the best and most fun way to make more money. So if you ever notice something about rich people, and I know a lot of rich people, they don't really worry about money, okay, because they have a lot. So what do they worry about? They worry about time. They don't worry about money. They worry about time. They are as crazy about time as you are about money. They feel the same way about time as you feel about money, that there's not enough time. And that's really the right way to look at it, okay? Let's talk about the difference between queues and markets, okay? If you're in line at the post office, which is a miserable experience. The post office here in Myrtle Beach is in kind of a rough section of town, and I'm going to have to go there to mail out my taxes next week, and I'm dreading it already. If you're going to the post office during lunch and you only have 45 minutes on your lunch break and you're stuck at the end of the line, you don't have enough time. So imagine there was a way for you to jump to the head of the line. Like imagine if you could spend $50 and just leapfrog everybody and get to the front of the line? Okay, would you do that? Well, it's an interesting question. It depends on how much you value your time. You see, if you make $100 an hour, then you would most certainly pay $50 to save 45 minutes. That math makes sense. You would do that without hesitation. If you make $10 an hour, then it makes more sense for you to just spend the 45 minutes in line. And some people think that lines are more fair than markets. And that right there is a true test of your political philosophy. If you think that a line is more fair than markets, then you are on the left. And if you think that a market is more fair than a line, then you are on the right. That's it. That's how you can tell if somebody is a Republican or a Democrat, right there, just with that one question. And the way I answer this is, wouldn't you rather be in a bread market than a bread line? I don't think we want to be in bread lines, okay? There was this meme going around. I used to follow this libertarian stuff on Facebook. And there was this meme going around, and it was split in two parts. On the top part, it was a picture of a grocery store, like the bread aisle at a grocery store, and it said, "Capitalism, bread waits for you." And then it had a picture of a bread line in the Soviet Union, and it said, "Socialism, you wait for bread." So that's the difference between a line and a queue. Markets are a way to save time because time is more valuable than money, as any wise man knows. So I don't want to spend 1 minute doing anything I don't want to be doing. I don't want to spend any of my time doing anything that I find unpleasant. Why? Because I'm going to die. Someday, I'm going to die. And even if somebody wastes 3 minutes of my time, it really, really gets on my nerves. It gets on my nerves. So if you have a job and you dislike your job and you go to work for 8 hours a day, every day, and you hate every minute of it, I really cannot think of anything in the world that is worse. I can't. Because we get a really finite amount of time here on this planet. And I don't want to spend it miserable. I don't want to spend it doing something I don't want to be doing. I want to do stuff that I like. Time is more valuable than money. I know people who have spent 40 years at a job that they don't like. That's their entire life. Time is precious. Money is not precious. It's not precious at all. It's abundant. It's everywhere. Okay? I will waste money on stuff. I will waste money on stupid things, but I will not waste time. See, most people are the other way around. Most people, they won't buy a $3.49 chicken biscuit at Dunkin' Donuts, but they'll spend an entire weekend watching football. They have it completely backwards. They have it completely backwards. And the analogy that I often use on the show is buying the pre-made burgers versus the pile of ground beef. I'll pay the extra 50 cents so I don't have to spend 10 minutes making burgers. I have 50 cents. Well, if you don't have 50 cents, then the goal is you want to get yourself to a point where time becomes more valuable than money. And this is very important. Listen to this. Listen very carefully. This is going to be the most important thing that I'm going to say tonight. Okay? If money is more valuable than time, that is a very dangerous place to be. And the reason is, this is how people turn into criminals, right? Because they will commit a crime to steal a couple of $100, and they will risk spending a few years in jail. Okay, so you can make a couple $100, or you can spend a few years in jail. That trade-off doesn't make sense to me. Okay, I am not going to do that. But if your morality is such that you value money more than time, then you will do that. If you value time more than money, you wouldn't make that trade ever. Most bad decision making comes from the belief that money is more valuable than time. So if you think about movies like The Italian Job and Ocean's 11, the guys in Ocean's 11, when they stole from the three casinos, the MGM, the Mirage, and what was the other one? I forget. They each got about $12 million, which is a decent amount of money, and it's slightly life-changing. Okay, but is it really worth spending 20 years in jail? In 20 years, you could make way more than $12 million. Now, this doesn't mean I don't want more money, because I could always use more money. But what I could really use is for someone to add 10 years to my life. So there was this movie a few years back with Justin Timberlake. It was a terrible movie. It was called In Time. And it was a movie about class warfare, and the message was dumb. But instead of money, everybody had time until they died. And poor people had very little time, and rich people had lots of time. It was a stupid movie. Remember when they used to sell concert tickets? I don't know if this happens anymore, but people would line up for tickets outside for days at a time in tents. They'd sleep in a tent on the sidewalk for 5 days to wait for tickets. I love music, and there's some bands that I really like, but I don't have that kind of time. And it doesn't mean I don't spend time on things that don't produce revenue. I'm getting a degree in writing, and that doesn't produce any revenue. If you think that money is more important than time, you have to get to a place where time is more important than money. Your life depends on it. I'm Jared Dillian. This is The Jared Dillian Show.
Jared Dillian. Own your money. Own your life.